Wow. Amazon's data centers, Xbox controllers, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, PlayStation 5s, the 2021 Mercedes-Benz Formula One car, Apple Macs, Apple MacBook Pros, and this laptop right here. What do they all have in common?
They're all electric.
They all use AMD's chips.
You love AMD.
Yeah, so here we go. That's what my company is going to be for the day.
Cool.
Going into the old stocks.
I like it.
To the old stonk section. So AMD, Advanced Micro Devices.
Yes.
So they have two. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. They have two main kind of products.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is.
I thought it was Advanced Micro.
Advanced Micro Delinquent people who are sitting next to me. I
have to remember to beep that. Yeah.
Yep. Not the other one.
But I'll beep that as well so they know what you're saying.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so anyway, they make so I
Yes.
didn't actually realize that it's pretty much a two product, not a two product business, but two product category business.
Okay.
So CPUs and GPUs.
Yep.
And so what that means is, so we'll go down here. So CPUs.
I reckon we should go down there.
Yeah. CPUs are central processing units.
Yes, I've heard that.
A central processing unit does all the general tasks on your
Yep.
computer.
Yep.
And a GPU is a graphics processing unit. So a graphics processing unit does all the specialized tasks on your computer, like gaming, editing videos, doing design work, and mining Bitcoin. So if you like to do that kind of thing, I don't know who would want to do that, but there's mining for any kind of cryptos really. So you'd use a GPU.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
So AMD, a breakdown of their revenue, they have 61% of their revenue comes from consumer products.
Okay.
And 39% comes from enterprise products.
Wow.
So it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good mix.
Yeah.
Considering that they're in a lot of... So the Apple MacBook Pro uses it in their larger...
That does really show how many non-consumer products they're in.
Yeah.
Because as you're saying, there's just so many consumer products.
Yeah. And
wow, that's incredible.
And so they've got a very diversified stream of clients, which is really good.
Yep.
So there's currently, one thing to note is, and you might have heard of this, there's currently a global shortage of chips.
Yes, I have heard of that.
So demand's shot up exponentially in 2020.
Global shortage of chippies.
Chippies. Well, I didn't make any jokes in your segment. No, it's good. So 2020 and 2021. So obviously there's been a virus on, if you haven't heard.
Yep.
So car manufacturers, appliance manufacturers, gaming consoles, they're all struggling to source chips.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been a huge shift to work from home as well.
Yes,
so
that's
that's
right.
been a lot of consumer products, laptops, phones
Yeah.
that everyone would have upgraded.
Yeah, cool.
So
true.
everyone who typically wouldn't have upgraded their, there are people out there, apparently, Nathan, that don't upgrade their laptop for like a good 5 years.
Really?
But when they, I'm just making general broad assumptions, but when they, have to work from home for the next year,
Yeah, you gotta rely on it.
it's like, oh, well, I better actually,
Yeah.
get something new.
Yeah.
So demand for semiconductor products, according to Bloomberg, is currently 30% greater than supply.
Really?
So that's a big
Wow.
kind of shift. So I'm going to go into some of the products here. So so CPUs, and I think this is a product type. So and I want to make sure to let the audience know that I'm not actually an expert in IT related products, but I think this will go well.
Okay.
But I'll come across as one, so it's fine.
Perfect.
So the x86 microprocessor is the specific
That's one of my favorites.
semiconductor market. Well, that's the market. That's not even a
Oh.
that's not a product type. So that's what the market that
good
AMD
market, that one.
that's AMD and Intel that
Yes.
are both always kind of competing for CPU. So CPU
Yeah, right.
being the general thing that goes
Yes.
in your laptop. So AMD actually overtook Intel for market share in the CPU space in desktops in Q1 2021.
Okay.
So AMD had a market share of desktop CPUs of 50.8%.
Oh.
So obviously Intel's the only other one that's doing the exact thing.
Yeah.
But of the total CPU market, AMD has 39.4% of the CPU market.
Gotcha.
And Intel has 60%. So that's pretty cool that they overtook in a specific kind of category.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing to note there, if you look at, as I was talking about just before, Apple MacBooks, right?
Yes.
There's Apple MacBooks have like, and I don't know what they're doing with their new Apple chip that they're developing and whatever yet, but at the moment they've got Intel CPUs and then AMD GPUs.
Really?
So
that's interesting.
And it's the same with this. This has got an Intel i7 CPU and an AMD Radeon GPU. So AMD's best chip in the CPU space.
Mm-hmm.
From what I can see, their current best consumer CPU product is the Ryzen 9 5950X.
Yes.
Right? So that has 16 CPU cores, which is very impressive.
Is it?
That's a lot of cores compared to.
I suppose it is a lot.
So yeah, quad core used to be like a big. Well, when I say used to be, it's probably still a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
So quad core is most things.
I wonder what this is.
So yeah, 16 CPU cores.
Mine's quad core.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
Intel processing and graphics.
So this one, I think this one here, I paid a lot to get 6 cores.
Wow.
So 16 is their current best. With a base of 3.4 gigahertz and a max boost up to 4.9 gigahertz.
Wow.
So that's essentially each core has a certain power level kind of thing.
Yep.
And so it's kind of like, and this is very rough, but the number of cores times the power is kind of how good your CPU is.
Mm-hmm.
So then Intel's Core i9 Extreme Edition has, with a lot of numbers behind it, XE. It has 18 cores, so it's got 2 more cores. It's got 36 threads as opposed to 32 before.
Yes.
Should we wait a minute?
Ah, continue.
Okay. And it's got a base of 3 gigahertz. So it's less than the AMD's 3.4.
Yep.
With a max boost of 4.6, which is less than AMD's 4.9.
Yes.
So that's an interesting comparison there. So in saying that, I think AMD's ahead on power, but it's managed to kind of cram 2 less cores into their chip, into their top spec product. From what I can see there, I don't really think there's a winner or a loser. I think that, and I don't know specifically, like I'm sure that there is a technical winner or whatever there, but it seems fairly evenly matched with both of those comparisons there.
Question.
Yes.
When you say gigahertz,
Yeah.
my understanding of hertz is it's like a measurement of...
Power?
No. Like a measurement of like speed.
Okay.
So when you talk about like hertz, 1 hertz is like... Usually it's like...
Well, it's frequency, isn't it, though?
Well, it's 1 oscillation per second is 1 hertz.
Okay, yes, you're right. Yeah.
So... would it possibly... Maybe that... I guess that does mean how... Like it's
but
like...
I think it's per... I think... And I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that the number of hertz is like times the number of cores is how fast your...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like it's processing power, which I guess is why it's called processing power.
Yeah, so AMD...
That's how fast it operates.
Yeah, so AMD's got 16 cores times 3.4, essentially. It's
Gotcha.
like that. And then Intel's got 18 cores times 3 gigahertz.
And that the output of that is how powerful it is.
Yeah, so there will be one.
Sense.
So there's one that's more powerful than the other.
Yes.
I think it's potentially the AMD.
Yeah.
I don't know 100%. I don't know the actual maths to work out.
Yeah.
Which is because it's obviously not just times. Well, maybe it is just times. I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, that's their CPUs. So it seems pretty evenly matched there.
We're not IT experts though.
Yeah, we're not. We're definitely not.
You did.
I know more than someone who doesn't know.
Your dad does own an
anything.
IT company.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't know anything. It's not genetic. Knowledge. Okay. So then GPUs. So this is an interesting one. So on CPUs, AMD's biggest competitor is Intel, obviously.
Yep.
But on GPUs, AMD's biggest competitor is NVIDIA.
NVIDIA
or NVIDIA, or however you want to pronounce it.
NVIDIA, also a public company.
Also a public company. Also a massive, massive company.
Yeah.
They are bigger than Intel. They're 500 billion, I think, is their
really
market cap, which is very surprising since I thought that they only made graphics cards, and I still think they only make graphics cards.
I thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of screens around nowadays.
True. That's yeah.
But yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, how big is gaming? You know, I don't know. That's yeah. Anyway, it's pretty cool. So AMD
cool.
Radeon series is
I've heard of that.
what this one is. So they're kind of behind compared to NVIDIA's GeForce RTX brand, which is the top.
I've heard of that too. I've seen it on a box.
Yes, you definitely would have seen it on the box. But all right, so AMD's best Radeon GPU is the 6900 XT, which is just a product name, so you know, don't get too excited.
Yeah.
And then NVIDIA's RTX GeForce 3090 is the best kind of thing. So putting those together, AMD's got the
such helpful information.
Yeah, well, you know. Oh, don't get, you know.
Sorry, keep going.
I'm not going to keep going. No, okay.
You're leaving. Don't leave.
I'll walk away. I wish. Oh, no. Anyway, back onto it. So the key, I think that the key difference here is I found it way harder to compare graphics cards, like to kind of figure out what is going on with graphics cards.
Yeah.
So AMD's cheaper with a $1,300 top of the line graphics card.
Okay.
NVIDIA has its top of the line is $2,000. This is in USD.
And you're kind of just assuming that they're similar?
So one key advantage, and I don't know how much difference this makes at this high end.
Yes.
NVIDIA's GPU has a memory of 24 gigabytes.
Right.
Which is apparently super useful for people that are making games.
Okay.
And then AMD's is 16 gigabytes.
Right.
But I don't think that matters. I think they both seem to be able to run at ultra high speed gaming. Like they can both play 4K games, right?
Yes.
With very high graphics.
So from the consumer side of it, they're comparable?
From the consumer side of it, they're comparable. So from what I can see, AMD is closing the gap on NVIDIA. So they're getting better and better, and NVIDIA's getting like slightly better, you know.
Yeah.
So AMD is like rapidly kind of closing.
Good old AMD.
Their products recently, so like this is their top of the line thing. It's been released 6 months ago, so it's this year's model, and it's been upgraded with a 3-fan solution instead of a 1-fan to make it run faster.
They love 3 fans.
And yeah, as far as I can tell, it's not as good as the NVIDIA, but it's getting very close. Okay. Like you look at some of so there's specific types of rendering, basically, like there's frames per second on reflections and same frames per second on this kind of scene, you know, or whatever. So like comparing the frames per second, they're literally like, oh, this one's 490 versus this one's 520, you know? So it's like, oh, this is just stupidly fast. Like you don't need to watch it at 590 for... Yeah, it's just proving how good it is.
Okay.
And then there's also, this is another type of product, APUs, which are accelerated processing units.
Oh, wow.
Which are a combination of both of those. They're for cheap laptops with low power.
Oh, really?
So that's a cheap, that's a combo of CPU and GPU.
Oh, gotcha. It just does it all.
Yeah, but they're not as good as either. They're for like off-brand.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, that's it. So I want to delve a little bit into the history of AMD here, Nathan.
Yeah, I like it.
So founded in 1969, which is
so old.
I didn't realize it was this old because it seems it's got a little bit of a hype around it. So it's kind of like, oh, this is a 2012 kind of company.
Feels a bit youthful, but
definitely
it's not. Jeez.
Yeah, so IPO'd in 1972, which is 3 years after that.
Right.
And then in the 80s, AMD were manufacturing chips for Intel, and in 1991, AMD launched its own chip. Yep. They bought ATI Technologies for $5.4 billion in 2006, which is how they got into graphics cards. Okay. That's the first kind of graphics card situation they had there.
Right.
They sold their chip manufacturing in 2008, and they employed a new CEO named Rory Reid in 2011, which is when the stock reached $2, which is their company was almost bankrupt. There were talks
So they don't make their own chips?
I believe so. What I believe that the process is that they have like specific contractors that are they're not their companies, but it's like they have one client who is AMD kind of thing. And so I believe it's very much and I'm not 100% sure. Maybe they've bought back manufacturing since then.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who actually manufactures it, but the way that it's framed in their history is, oh yeah, we sold off this to focus on chip design.
Yep.
And they facilitate it. They make it their own. Like it's their own intellectual property, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, they reached $2. They almost bottomed out completely. In October 2014, they appointed Dr. Lisa Su as their president and CEO.
Oh, so when you say they reached $2, it got down to $2?
It got all the way down to $2.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was a very tragic
oh, wow.
kind of situation there.
Rory.
So yeah, they 2014 they got their current president and CEO, who is Dr. Lisa Su.
Okay.
Which is where the big turnaround kind of started to happen.
Nice.
So the stock price was about $2.68 when she was appointed there. And in 2017 they launched their Ryzen series, which is the current line of CPUs.
Yep.
And then Radeon is the GPU series kind of thing. They've also got the enterprise sides of both of those. So I'm not sure what those product lines are called, but there's a couple of different product lines there.
Yep.
And one of the key reasons for AMD's success, according to Lisa Su, is that they think 3 to 5 years in advance on product planning, and then invest heavily into the smaller units with the more improved processing power. So she's kind of anticipating the demand 3 to 5 years, which is why in 2014, started thinking heavily about what they could do to keep, to really grow the brand and
that's good.
To get it out of that hole kind of thing. But it was a really long-term solution.
She sounds very strategic.
Definitely, yeah. That's so she said that something that the last year's taught them as well is that they can turn on a dime.
Hey.
So keeping AMD very agile is one of her key kind of points, which is cool.
Yep.
In January 2021, AMD did a deal with Samsung to provide their mobile processing units with a Samsung-branded Exynos processor, which is just a Samsung brand of processor, but AMD's making them. Yep. Essentially. In one of AMD's newest customers, as of June 2021, is Tesla.
Hey,
which will use AMD's CPUs and GPUs in the infotainment systems.
Do you know if they're only using AMD or is it just?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But CPUs and GPUs makes it sound like it's only AMD, which is cool.
Yeah.
Something to consider with AMD's market share against Intel. So they had 50.8% of the desktop PC processors. Is that Intel has a 7 times higher R&D budget and 10 times the number of employees.
Whoa.
So AMD have 12,600 employees and Intel have 110,000.
Whoa.
So
so that could be the difference between making new chips and not?
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, 12,600, it sounds like they're contracting the people to make them, and
Definitely
Intel sounds like it does them in-house.
Yeah, that sounds
sort
like
of thing. So, going into a bit of the financials.
Yes, take us there.
So this is all in the trailing 12-month so numbers. So the last 1 year revenue growth was 57.6%. So they grew revenue. So March 2020 was 7.2 billion. And March 2021 was 11.4 billion. So they've upped the revenues there.
That's huge for that age company.
Yeah, definitely. So it has been a huge time for people working from home and needing all those products and kind of the demand there and as well as the shortages.
Yeah, the old brought forward demand sort of thing where they're not going to be able to sustain that sort of growth into the coming years. One thing
to keep in mind is yes, they're an old company, but that doesn't mean they're a slow conglomerate. General Electric, GM,
West Farmers,
that kind of thing. Yeah, so last 1 year earnings growth though. Yeah. So we had revenue growth of 57%.
Yeah.
Last year's earnings growth is 493.9%. So they've grown. March 2020 profit was.
So they make profit.
Yeah. So March 2020's profit was 487 million.
Do they pay dividends?
No. Well, maybe they do, but most American companies don't really. But but yes, I'm fairly sure they don't.
Okay.
But their March 2021 profit, you'll see why in a second.
Okay, yep.
Their March 2021 profit was 2.8 billion. So they've gone from 400 million to 2.8.
When was 400 million, sorry?
$400 million was March 2020.
2020. Okay.
Yeah. 2021, they've gone up to 2.8 bill. So
Whoa.
they've gone to a current net profit margin of 25%,
Really?
which is very neat.
That's awesome.
It's a very healthy margin.
Yep.
And it's a huge difference to 2016 when AMD was making losses. So they started to turn a profit after 2016.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
So definitely a huge change.
Yes.
The share price is up 3,400% since Lisa Su joined the company in October 2014.
Wow. That's good for her if she got like stock options straight away.
Definitely, yeah. It would have been good. The whole ride would have been very nice for getting options along the go. Yeah, so
Nice.
the current price is $94.70.
Wow.
I think it has gone over 100 before, but we've had obviously a bit of a volatile period in the last couple of months.
Drawn back a bit.
So that's from the 2nd of July close. That it was $94.70.
Yep.
So a market cap of $115 billion at the moment.
Okay.
So
What did you say was 500? Didn't you say one of these companies was 500 billion?
Oh yeah, that was Nvidia.
Nvidia.
Nvidia, yeah.
And this is 100 odd.
Yes, and it'd be interesting to see. I don't know what Intel's is, but it'd be interesting to compare that as well.
It would.
So yeah, they've announced a $4 billion buyback, which was very recently announced.
Yep.
So instead of doing a dividend, that's a very American kind of thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe taxes are lower on capital gains than they are on dividends, which is why they do that in America, as opposed to here where they would pay a dividend because taxes are lower on dividends than capital gains sometimes. Like, depends.
Yep.
But that'll obviously push the price up, and that's to show confidence and in the company and where they're going.
Yeah.
So this has been the first buyback the company's done since 2001.
Oh wow.
So it's a pretty cool way to show that
So when they do a buyback, maybe we should talk about this for a sec.
Yeah.
So they offer all of their current shareholders the opportunity to buy all of their shares back? Like, do you know the details? Have you ever been a part of a buyback or?
No, a buyback is just buying. They just buy their own shares and push the price up.
So not current shares on the market?
No, they buy the current shares on the market.
Yeah, so from current shareholders.
Yeah, but just in the market though. So they'll just push it up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So they don't. Okay, so it's not
like a share split.
So they don't send you a letter saying, "Hey, we'll buy back your shares at X price."
No, they
Oh, really?
They just go and start. Well,
they just start buying it.
Yeah, so a lot of American companies, I believe, just start buying their own stock.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. I mean, that's good clarification. I didn't know that's how it worked. See, I was sort of picturing it like, you know how like sometimes Qantas will send you a letter and they'll be like, oh.
Yeah, but we do heaps of funny share price action things. Okay. But I believe that they just straight up go and buy their own stock.
I'm sure they do.
And yeah, just push that up.
Gotcha.
So yeah, cool. $4 billion buyback, which will push it all up. So
that's great.
That's pretty cool. There's also an acquisition in process of, and this is going to be the wrong pronunciation potentially. It's called Xilinx. So Xilinx. Well, that's how I assume it's pronounced. I haven't actually heard anyone.
Okay.
But Xillinx Inc. So their ticker is XLNX, and
that's public.
Yeah, so they're they'll be, while we're on the pronunciation, say Chamath's last name.
Palahapitides.
Nice. So
I don't know. I think that's right, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You got it that time, but you said it with confidence, and that's what made me believe it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Xilinx, yes, that's what we're that's what we're buying.
That is actually the way to go.
Yeah. So so that will be for $35 billion, the acquisition.
Okay.
Which is about 30. Well, it's about 30% of their 115 market cap, or I think their market cap at the moment. Yeah, 115 billion.
Oh yeah.
So so acquiring that will give.
That's large.
Yeah, it's quite a large acquisition, but acquiring that will give AMD access to Xilinx's data center business.
Do you know what these people do?
Yeah, so
did you say that?
I'm not 100% sure,
okay,
but
that's right.
It seems that they're also they're doing more enterprise versions of data centers and clients, that kind of thing.
Yeah, cool.
So they have a data center business apparently.
Sick.
And it'll also give them a larger portion of enterprise clients in telecommunications, automotive, aerospace, and defense. So those areas are where they'll get the clients from. On the 30th of June, AMD received its final approval from the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, as well as the European Commission, to acquire the company Xilinx. And
just call it by its ticker.
yes, Xilinx.
Perfect.
That's what it is. And the AMD EPYC, which is EPYC processor. This is also in what's currently kind of happening. Future share movements. Current predictions. So their EPYC processor will be in HP's newest enterprise storage software.
Yep.
So that'll be enabling that. So I assume that is more that's more data center kind of stuff. HP's data center side of the business.
Yep.
And those processors will be what's keeping HP's enterprise storage stuff alive. So it's it's all good. I think it's a lot of really good prospects. You got to consider chip storage shortage, catching up to Intel, catching up to Nvidia. They're acquiring this new company. They're fast and agile, as we've kind of seen. They've had thousands of % growth in the last 5 years. They had between 4 and 5, they pretty much had 3 billion in revenue sort of thing in 2016ish kind of area. They went 3, 4, 5, and then 7. And then 11 point whatever. So it's really, I think that the investment initially into the R&D and all that kind of thing, there, and as well as that, it's interesting that they can do, I was saying before, 7 times. Did I say 7 times? Intel spends 7 times more on R&D than AMD does. So the fact that they're able to catch up to Intel and Nvidia with such a lightweight budget and still manage
less staff.
And less staff. And so, as well as the 25% profit margin, it's shown as well that as they're scaling, because a couple of years ago the profit margin was 6%, and then it was 10%.
It's becoming more efficient.
So they literally grow as they grow. It's the perfect scaling system. So I really like the stock. I bought some in 2019.
Did you?
For about $32.
No.
And so I bought some then.
Nice.
I bought a fair bit in 2020 for about $83, and then it kind of ducked back down to 60ish range.
True.
But now it's at $94.70. So I believe every stock that I've bought has been profitable. Maybe I've bought some at 100. I'm not 100% sure, but it's
every stock of their company.
Every stock that I have of their company has
not
been
every stock
profitable.
you've ever bought.
Every stock.
Because I know that's not true.
Especially Nicola.
And Doe.
Doe.
We should talk about Doe.
We should.
There's nothing to talk about. Well, there is something now.
No, there is something to talk about now. They have a product.
Actually, it's related to this.
I didn't even know what they were working on, and I have plenty of it. So. But I was it was a pleasant surprise.
They got bought. They got bought by a company. You remember? And the
Are you
owner
talking about Goodman's?
Maybe. Do you remember listening to that podcast and the guy who was speaking on the podcast was like, yeah, I own this company, blah, blah, blah. We just bought this small company in Australia called Doe. Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
Oh, I should have sent it to you.
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Anyway, AMD is good.
True. Yeah. Okay, great. I don't own it, but maybe I should. I don't know.